Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is all super new for me, so bear with me. My name is Sam El-Ghazawi. I'm an orthopedic surgeon here in New York City with a specialty in sports medicine. See a lot of athletes, a lot of weekend warriors, so I thought I'd share a couple injuries that I see pretty consistently this time of year. It's getting cold, growing out my snowboard beard.
Oh, okay, that's great, it's longer.
Pretty avid snowboarder, so got a bunch of new gear, ready for my trip, and I thought I'd share a few of these injuries, both skiing and snowboarding injuries. So there's a couple differences between skiing and snowboarding injuries, and it's really just based on the way that you're going down the mountain. Obviously skiing, feet are planted forward, but they have the ability to go in all directions, right? And that leads to very specific injuries for skiers that you don't really see in snowboarders. First one, big one, are knee injuries, knee ligament injuries. The biggest one that we see is ACLs. We've all been on the mountain, seen that guy kind of yard sail all the way down, shit goes everywhere. That guy's knee goes one direction, his other knee goes the other direction, there's force that goes through that knee, and his ACL pops. At the same time, he could probably injure his MCL, which is the ligament on the inside part of the knee. And even sometimes with that big injury, you can injure your meniscus. Meniscus is just kind of this cartilage cushion in the knee. That's one big thing that we see in skiers that we don't really see in snowboarders. So for snowboarders, again, pretty obvious, but your feet are planted, you're kind of going down on your side. The way snowboarders fall is they kind of tend to fall with their arms out like this. Puts a lot of force through your wrists. That tends to either break your wrist, or there's a few different ligament injuries that you can have in your wrist. You can either injure the scaphoid lunate ligament, the TFCC, or you actually break some of the small bones in your wrist. And that's all based on kind of putting all the force landing like this or landing like this. One injury that's pretty specific to skiing is called skier's thumb. Definitely not going to see this in snowboarding, but basically skiers hold their poles, and sometimes when their pole gets jammed and they go a certain direction, their thumb can pull back past the point that their ligaments can tolerate. And that tears one of the ligaments in their thumb. It's pretty specific to skiing. All right, one injury that's also specific to snowboarding, don't really see it in skiers, is something called snowboarder's ankle. And it's because your foot is locked into the board. So when you fall, the forces pretty consistently go through your ankle in a very specific pattern. And that pattern breaks a bone called the talus bone. So people come and they think that they just have an ankle sprain. We get some more imaging, whether it's a CT scan, X-ray, or sometimes even an MRI, and we see that there's actually a break that is specific to snowboarders. Shoulder injuries can happen in skiers and snowboarders. See it a little bit more commonly in skiers, but again, you try to brace yourself, your pole goes one way, your arm gets pulled up, shoulder pops out, you can injure your labrum, biceps tendon, sometimes even your rotator cuff if you land directly on your shoulder. It can happen in snowboarders too. People tend to fall certain ways, hit their shoulder, or try to pull on a tree branch or something crazy like that, and we can have shoulder injuries leading from some of these falls. One final injury that happens, I think, in both skiing and snowboarding, but maybe a little bit more in snowboarding just because, again, of the pattern of the way that people fall, are concussions. Snowboarders tend to fall backwards, try to brace themselves, hit a patch of ice, and they can slam their head against the ground. That can happen in skiing too, obviously. And it's one of those things that we see every year. People come in with headaches, double vision, blurry vision, trouble concentrating. Those are all symptoms of concussions. So then the question is always, how do we prevent these injuries? I got patients every year asking me, hey, what can I do leading up to my trip? Should I buy knee braces? Should I buy wrist braces? These are all great questions that I think there's some evidence to support and some evidence where it might not make a difference. My response always is, yeah, just don't fall. Be better at skiing or snowboarding, you won't get injured, right? That's not always feasible. There's definitely varying degrees of ability and expertise. So if you're a novice, if you're learning skiing, learning snowboarding, just plan on falling. You're gonna fall. Especially for snowboarders, I tell them if this is your first season or you still feel like a beginner, wrist braces can make a big difference. It can just help distribute the force a little bit better, and there's some pretty good evidence out there suggesting that for beginners, wrist braces can maybe limit or eliminate fractures and ligament injuries in your wrist. Another thing that I think really makes a difference is kind of being honest with yourself. Every year, it's always the same story. It's my last run of the day, doc. I wanted one more good run. And that's when people fall, people can't keep their legs underneath them. The fatigue, I think, plays a big role in whether you get injured or not. So maybe calling it one run early, even though the powder is perfect, you know, your friends are rocking. It's just a matter of trying to be safe. So knowing yourself and knowing when you get tired, it can really limit these kinds of injuries. Another pointer I give people, which is always easier said than done, is trying to be conscious of the way that you fall. So trying to do a tuck and roll when you know you're going down, trying to not tense up. The reason for that is because if you can be a little bit looser, you can kind of hit the ground without being tense, it distributes the force through your body. So it's not just going through your wrist or just going through your shoulder, your arm. It's, again, easier said than done, but if you can do it, you decrease the likelihood that you're gonna break a bone or injure a ligament. And lastly, I think this should go without saying, you should wear a helmet. I mean, you know, I was resistant for the longest time. I took one bad fall and that was it. I mean, it doesn't take much to catch an edge, to hit a patch of ice that you can't see, and you kind of take a tumble. And the risk of the concussion and long-term effects of concussions versus the risk of maybe not looking as cool, I don't know, there's a lot of cool helmets out there now. It's not worth it. So wear a helmet, protect yourself, and that'll definitely decrease your risk of concussions. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Hope that we can prevent a couple injuries this year. If not, you know where to come. That's so stupid, dude. So dumb. All right. Hey, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope that your season's injury-free. If you liked it, subscribe. Otherwise, I hope to see you on the slopes.